Hello, I'm Celia Bertoia. I'm the daughter of Harry Bertoia. I'm here at the Harry Bertoia Foundation in St. George, Utah. It is February 29th, leap year day, 2024. Today we're going to talk about authentic Bertoia sculptures versus unauthorized copies or fakes. And we will start with the tonals, the sounding sculptures. I have here beside me what seems like a lovely Bertoia. And this came to us because someone bought it thinking it was a Bertoia. And they asked us to take a look at it. And from the photos, I couldn't quite tell, couldn't get enough detail. So they sent it out to us. And indeed, it is not a Bertoia. So they were quite disappointed. And we found a happy solution where they donated it and were at least able to write off a tax deduction. And he lived in Australia, so he didn't have to pay for shipping over there. He had purchased it sight unseen. So we're going to take a look at the way I knew immediately that it was not a real Bertoia is, and this is not professional, so moving the camera right here. Look at the base, especially where the flashlight is. And we have it labeled fake tonal. This is drilled and threaded. It is not soldered or welded. That was the first main giveaway. And also, I don't know what this metal is. It's a dark, we didn't have it tested, but it's not anything that Harry would have used. And you can also see that it's got a very small base for the size tonal. And in fact, I had to put it in that board. I had to make a base for it because it kept falling over. So those three things, it was not balanced. It had some different kind of metal, and the drilled and threaded rods into the base were the three giveaways. Harry's work is always very harmonious and balanced, and this definitely is not. He used many different types of metals. He loved beryllium copper, which has kind of a warm reddish tone to it. And he liked to use bronze and brass and even nickel alloys, Monel, Inconel. He did not use stainless steel. So if you find a stainless steel tonal, that is not by Bertoia. And he also did not sign his works. He felt that his creativity came from a divine source, and why should he put one man's name on it? So it was a great philosophy, has caused some problems in the aftermath. But that's a great example of a fake. Now, Val Bertoia, my brother, also makes tonals. And I'm going to show you how he marks them. On the side of the base. Can you see where the flashlight is shining there? It says B something 1032, I think it is. And that's how Val signs his sculptures, usually on the side of the base. Sometimes it's underneath, but he has been pretty good about signing. You can also see that the soldering is it's spilling over. It's not neat and tidy, which is a contrast to this tonal. Let's see if you can see the base. Okay, there's the base with really neat and tidy soldering. Each rod has a little indentation with the solder pooled around it in a perfect circle. That is a real Bertoia. It's beautiful. I'm going to take you over here to some of the Sonambient barn tonals, because they have a slightly different base. All right, here's a couple of bases. You can see that these two have the indentation and the solder pooled around it. Now the one with the wider spaced rods does have some overflow. We'll look at this one over here. Okay. Now this, you can see quite a bit of overflow, and there is no indentation. So this was actually from the early 60s. His style of connecting the rods to the base developed over time. This was one of the first iterations, and it got neater as time went on. Also, here is a cylinder. You can see the drilled hole in there. It's heavy. And these would go on the tops of some of the sculptures like that. Try to show you the underside of them. The underside is a great place to look to find out if it's real. I've seen some really strange things on fakes. So it should have the rod going into a drilled hole, not threaded, but drilled, and then solder. So that's another way of looking. We have had a few authorized copies. You can see here, it's clearly marked Harry Bertoia, 2017, 36 out of 100. We are actually coming out with another one. So that gives you a good idea about sounding sculptures. Hope I've answered some questions there. Now we will talk about the dandelions. Yeah, we've got some pictures here. This on the upper left, that is a fake. It's actually rather nice, but when you see the Bertoia style of that type of dandelion, it's just a lot different and more sophisticated. This tall, slender dandelion, once again, I refer to balance. You've got this large sphere and this teeny little base. It's just out of proportion. That is not a Bertoia dandelion. And you can find that on Google Images. This one, it's pleasant enough, but again, here we have this huge base. Harry did not make a base that large. That is something I could have mentioned with the tonals as well, is that the base had to be thin enough for Harry to melt the solder from the underside. He didn't put the torch on the top side where the sliver of solder was sitting around the rod. He heated the whole base. You know, he'd have those rods stabilized with some kind of jig, and they'd be in the holes with a sliver of solder around each rod, and heating it from the bottom. It would heat up the whole base so that the solder would melt. And so that's why you won't see torch marks on the top. Now we're looking at the dandelion here. But yeah, it's just imbalanced. We'll look at a real dandelion here in a minute. This one, to me, that's just completely obvious that it's a fake. You've got that strange little bump where the stem meets the base. And It's kind of sweet. I mean, it would be fun to have as a conversation piece, but it just doesn't have the elegance or the finesse of a Bertoia. Here we have an authentic Bertoia dandelion. You can see the whole thing there. And again, it's balanced. Get a different view here. The base is in proportion to the sphere. Now he did make all different kinds of globes in the middle there. This one is pretty open. Some of them are more solid, but you can tell a lot by looking at the central globe. And just a nice slim stem. This dandelion, by the way, is on loan from Knoll. Well, they're now actually called Miller Knoll. They were kind enough to loan this to us. We didn't have a dandelion, it's bronze. And I want you to look at the base. It's a simple granite base with a hole drilled into it that was drilled exactly to the dimension of the stem. Now you can see some rust on that stem. It's old. I mean, this is from 1965. So it's got some damage, and you'll see that on some Bertoias. This is actually, I think it's a steel rod. I'm not sure. But this base is very typical. A rock base, sometimes marble, sometimes granite. And he just stuck it in there. There's no glue, no nothing. It's just cut precisely, and the rod is stuck in there. And for these, he had to have a base that was thick enough so that when you stick that stem in there, it goes in a few inches. Now this one, we had this base made because the original base was lost. And my guy didn't really quite know how to do it other than to drill the hole all the way through. So that's what we did, and then we put a plug on the other end. Harry did not do that. He would drill the hole about 7/8 of the way through so that there was still part of the rock that held the stem in place. Harry worked, yeah, his work was just engineered beautifully, but very artistically. And okay, now bushes, we're not aware of bushes being copied yet. I don't know if they will be, but so far, nothing. But you never know. Well, Val does make, he does make bushes, but again, he usually signs them. So that is your lesson for the day. You can find out more at harrybertoia.org, and you can donate there if you feel this was helpful. So we will be doing more of these. So stay tuned. Thank you. Bye bye.